So I want to welcome you all to our online artist talk with Jennifer Ann Kelly and Raegan Little. I'm Peter Flannery, the Senior Curator and Collections Manager at the Canadian Clay and Glass Gallery. As we're getting started here, we're all joining from different places across the country, and I think Raegan is traveling right now. But I do want to acknowledge that the Canadian Clay and Glass Gallery is located on the traditional territory of the Attawattaron, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. The gallery is situated on the Haldimand Tract, land promised to Six Nations in 1784 that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. Yet today, the Six Nations reside on less than 5% of this unceded territory. Indigenous peoples have inhabited this land for thousands of years. We respectfully and gratefully share this territory in peace and friendship, and we reaffirm our commitment to do the work to unlearn and relearn towards a true reconciliation, and particularly with the Beyond the Threshold exhibition, as we're thinking about housing insecurity, homelessness, all of these struggles that are affecting communities across the country. I think it's really important to keep this in mind as we're having these conversations. So Beyond the Threshold, it's our current exhibition on now at the Canadian Clay and Glass Gallery until from September 20th, 2025, and it's on until January 11th, 2026. The exhibition brings together the work of 18 artists from across the country who confront issues of homelessness, the housing crisis, food insecurity, and more through deeply personal and intersectional lenses. Their work speaks to the complex and often painful relationship between identity, place, and survival. Their stories are rooted in lived experience. Together, these artists offer a glance at what home can look like in the face of instability, change, and hope. And Beyond the Threshold and its related programming is made possible through the generous support of Armstrong Fine Art Services and a special anonymous donor. So we gratefully acknowledge their contributions to bringing this really important project to life. I will mention as well, in coordination with the exhibition, the gallery is hosting a food drive in partnership with Waterloo Region Food Bank. So if you're making a trip to the gallery between now and mid-December, we invite you to bring a donation along with you as well. And I'll note as well that this is the first in a series of events connected to the exhibition, including 2 more online artist talks and an in-person roundtable discussion at the gallery on November 9th. All of the information for those 3 events is available on our Eventbrite, where you registered for this talk. We'd love to have you join us at the other events along the way. And I'll mention as well, the chat is open if you'd like to write any questions in there throughout the presentations and the discussions, and we'll get to those questions at the end.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you, Peter, for that lovely introduction. Like Peter said, we have some really exciting stuff coming up for this online talk today. The way things are going to work is we're going to have both of our artists do a respective presentation, and then once each of our artists have presented, then we're going to open the floor up to questions from the audience. So without further ado, I would like to introduce these very wonderful artists that we are so privileged to have with us today. Both of their artwork can be found within Beyond the Threshold, of course. So we have Jennifer Ann Kelly joining us, who created the piece Hope that's featured in Beyond the Threshold. And then we have Raegan Little joining us as well, who created the piece Unbalanced and Beyond the Threshold. I believe that Jennifer has offered to do her presentation first. So I'm going to open the floor up to you, Jennifer, to give us all the insights into your piece.
First off, I'd like to say thank you very much to the team at the Canadian Clay and Glass Gallery for their hard work in bringing this exhibit from concept to a beautiful reality. Hope.
Oh, Jennifer, it looks like you've been muted. You just...
There, am I back?
There we go. Yep, you're back.
Sorry about that. Can you see the screen okay?
Yep, all good.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jennifer Kelly. I'm an artist working in the Algonquin Anishinaabe territory, also known as the Ottawa area. I've been exploring glasswork since the early 90s, but also enjoy delving into other mediums and juxtaposing them with glass. Here I am pictured in my studio in Ottawa. Whoops, sorry, just my creations range from very small to very large three-dimensional works. My inspiration comes from moments of reflection and peace. Looking back, I now see that my home life did not always offer peace, so spending hours in the studio creating calm images and scenes was a kind of medicine or medicinal. This slide shows some of the delicate sculptures I've focused on over the last decade or so. There's a pair of glass paper scrolls, a glass and copper butterfly, a 7-foot wide pair of glass feathered wings, and a bespoke glass box depicting a forest floor with mushrooms and bark. My larger installations focus on community and encourage inclusivity. The photos show a glass and wood Inuit kayak created with 3 Inuk artists and now permanently at Ottawa General Hospital. The Ottawa Miniature Gallery, made through the City of Ottawa Public Art Program, displaying miniature art, and Flock, a steel and glass bird installation in an Ottawa church bell tower. Through these positive and uplifting art creations, I was struggling at home. I felt a lot like the tree in this image. As the roots are clinging to the stump of a fallen tree, I was desperately clinging to my loved ones who were struggling with mental illness and addiction. I thought for sure my strength and my endless hours of research on treatments would be enough. I soon discovered that the social systems we have in place are disconnected and often very outdated. I discovered that there is no rock bottom. There is no one treatment, no one modality or step in a recovery process that fits every single individual. If there is one specific shift that can make a difference, it is a medical system, a society, a community that better understands trauma and its effects on mental health. I'm hopeful that we will see this shift in our lifetime. I have hope that our communities will be able to do more to offer kindness to people who are struggling. Hence the title of my installation, Hope. When the colleague came for an exhibit on housing insecurity and the many intersecting social challenges of our time, I knew what I would propose. I made a small wire ball with a tiny glass and copper butterfly inside. I created it just for myself on a whim, but I immediately saw the butterfly as the beautiful and vulnerable people who are struggling with mental illness and addiction, and who so often represent our unhoused population. The wire ball represents the cyclical patterns, isolation, confinement, and obstacles to recovery. This image shows a SketchUp of my proposal for the exhibit. The months that followed continued to be a struggle at home. I carried on my work and figured out how to make huge barbed wire spheres and butterflies that could come close to being as beautiful as the people I was trying to represent. 2 friends who happened to be farmers donated spools of wire. I delved into different types of glass wings using various techniques. The images of wings show them prior to being fired in the kiln. I chose stained and fusible glass as well as some crushed and powdered glass for patterns. I use a rubber tip tool, a fan brush, and a sifter for almost all my work. They are my absolute favorite tools. The final piece of the puzzle was the gift of some gold leaf. I gilded each of the butterflies with either gold or silver leaf to unify them visually and as a statement on how incredibly valuable each person is. Pictured are 2 examples of butterflies in glass, patinaed copper, and silver and gold leaf. Here are some photos from friend Peter Marr captured in my studio before all 12 spheres and butterflies were completed. These butterflies are the heaviest of the 12, but I do love how showy they are. The largest spheres are 3 to 4 feet in diameter, while the smallest ones are about 2 feet in diameter. The butterflies are attached with copper wire, and the barbed wire is coated with a shellac, so it isn't quite as sharp as it was when I was cutting and forming it. And here's the final installation at Canadian Clay and Glass Gallery. 12 barbed wire spheres with glass butterflies inside. The 12 is to represent a recovery program from the 1930s referred to as the 12 steps, or AA. And I believe Cheyenne is the videographer for this piece. I'm happy to report that my loved ones are currently enjoying recovery. They found a way out through the maze of barriers, both internal and external, and slipped through an opening just in time. This photo depicts 3 wire spheres with butterflies holding on inside. Thank you very much for taking the time to observe this installation and its message.
That's so very lovely, Jennifer. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's always so interesting to see, you know, how the process is for each artist when they work on these projects. So thank you so much for that presentation. It was very insightful.
Yeah.
I was really interested, Jennifer, you know, obviously the barbed wire component of your piece is dangerous in a way. And I was just curious, what was it like working with it? I imagine it was kind of unruly to work with.
It was, and because it was warmer weather, I was often wearing a t-shirt and shorts. So
Yeah.
I don't highly recommend my methods of doing it, but I got so comfortable with it, it was easier for me to use bare hands actually to get to hook it in where I needed it. But it was neat because there were tufts of cow fur on various locations of it because it literally just came out of a farmer's field.
That's wow. Because even just when we were bringing them in, I was holding them with my bare hands, and I thought, I can't imagine what it was like to try and turn this into art.
It was
You were
fun.
braver than I.
So my name's Raegan Little. I am from St. Thomas, Ontario, and grew up there, went to Bishop's University in Quebec, went to law school at University of Detroit Mercy, and then went and did a law degree in the US as well. Never ever took any art classes, didn't do any art classes in high school, didn't do any art classes in university, but was always making things and always really, really loved to, you know, I don't know, be crafty. Then practiced law for a little while, started having a family, and decided to stay home with my kids. And then when they didn't need me quite as much anymore, I really wanted to go back to school because I loved being at school. And so we lived right across the street from University of Waterloo, and I started doing a part-time fine arts degree at the University of Waterloo, which I loved. And I was okay doing the exams and the papers and everything, but I loved the studio work. I loved being in and loved making all kinds of whatever it was in the studio. And then there was the pandemic. And during the pandemic, obviously we couldn't be in class and everything was online, which was not my favorite. But did for my final project during the pandemic, and I do have some photos of this, unfortunately, my fault that we don't have them. Did a project where every day for about a month and a half, or I don't know, 35 days or something, I made a different piece of art, and then I put it out on my Instagram and asked people to respond to it, and in their responses, and then we traded the art. And so at the end of it all, someone got a piece of art every day. I ended up with all of these lovely things that were in response to my art. And so my final presentation was kind of photos of that. And then at one point during that process did a small sculpture, a small plaster sculpture of powdered donuts for someone. And loved the sculpture aspect of it very much. And so then started doing ceramic sculptures because at the end of the pandemic, there was no more studio spaces. There was really nowhere to go, but a new ceramic studio had opened in Kitchener, Waterloo. So I thought, oh, I'll join this and that'll be so much fun. And got there and took a couple of throwing classes and realized really quickly that throwing was not my thing and that the world did not need more ugly mugs and bowls and wonky things with handles that didn't stay on. So started doing ceramic sculpture and made, and if you've seen the show at all, if Cheyenne's able to get any images up at all, did a ceramic craft peanut butter. And so the craft peanut butter was a thing that started it all for me. And then started doing some very made in Canada objects. So did, I don't know, white cheddar craft. Oh, there's my peanut butter. Cheyenne, are you able to?
Yes, I have some photos of yours. I can kind of flip through them if you'd like.
Oh, do you? Is that what you've got
Yeah.
going on here? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So then I started making some things like, oh, you're the best. Look at you go. Um, Doing some kind of typically very Canadian objects and starting to do those objects, which this is not one of them. Well, actually, the Wonder Bread is maybe, but starting to do some objects that were very Canadian, which turned into, with, you know, all of my 500 Instagram followers, whatever, an art gallery in St. Thomas actually reached out and asked if I wanted to do a show there. So before we were really all being super Canadian and before everything was elbows up, I had done a whole series of made in Canada objects, from money to Joe Louis to uh, Margaret Atwood books, to Anna Green Gable books, so a whole series of sculpture, which was at a little show in St. Thomas last summer for a few months. Then at the same time, I had already submitted to the Toronto Outdoor Art Fair, which I was accepted into. So at Toronto Outdoor Art, then it was luckily had my, thank you, Cheyenne. Luckily at Toronto Outdoor Art, I had to make a whole bunch of other things as well because they were kind of going concurrently. But my kids were super helpful and they were there with me for the whole 3 days. And we did, it was really fun. It's a one and done for me. I won't do another art fair, but it was great while we did it. And then at the time, I was trying to figure out what was next for me because I really was then wanting to make some more things. And I saw the call for um, Beyond the Threshold. And although I've never been food insecure, I, over the years, had volunteered for a number of organizations in our community and really understood that there was a huge need, and it was something that I wanted to be able to amplify if I was able to. Originally, my idea was to do 3 or 4 really large food items that I thought the food bank was going to need. Oh, sorry, someone's just said, can I post my Instagram? I don't know, Cheyenne, is that something I think that's something you can do.
Yes, let me grab it for you.
That's not me, clearly.
I can do that.
Thank you very much. And so I thought I would do like a huge peanut butter. Then I would do a huge, pasta, and those would be some big items. At the time, then I had a good friend who was renovating a condominium, and she was taking the cabinets out of it. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to take those cabinets out, and I'm going to make a kitchen of a food insecure home. And so that, as you can see right now, because Shannon has been so wonderful at doing that, is how that turned out. And so I called it unbalanced for a number of reasons. Unbalanced can be financial, it can be mental. You could not have a balanced meal, which in this case is, all of those things apply. I had to do a fair amount of research to figure out exactly what I wanted to do in the piece, and found that when you are living in poverty and with food insecurity, some things are more prevalent than others. Obviously, you're eating a lot of processed foods. If Cheyenne at some point can come up with a picture of, there's a dollar store bag that I made. So dollar stores that are popping up all over our communities are, in densely populated areas. And so more and more people who are food insecure are doing their shopping at the dollar store, which means that you are not buying fresh foods at all, right? And so you're eating more and more processed foods. Unfortunately, I think smoking is almost twice as prevalent in low-income communities. It has to do with access, because those kind of stores are much easier to get to. Has to do with it has to do with just low income. It has to do with, sorry, I've totally lost my train of thought here because something has popped up on my screen. So the information that I gained anyway from doing all of this has made for me the show very personal, even though it's not something that I've dealt with personally at all. Also, I think that a lot of people, when they see the show and they come in, they react to it in a very personal way. So if you have been food insecure, then you understand all of the little items, because each item has meaning, whether it's the food for kids keychain, whether it's the pasta, whether it's the unpaid bills, if it's I'm trying to think of all the other things that are there. The coffee that you couldn't drink because you didn't have time. So my kitchen is set up in my mind as a mom with 2 young kids, and she's trying so hard. So there are a lot of things that are disturbing in it. There are also some things that are in there that show that she's really trying. There's a calendar that has, it has supervised access visits on it, but it also has soccer on it. And there's kids art that's there. There are, the test scores that aren't great, but that, you can see that she's trying to help. So in my mind, that's what my exhibition was to look like. Yeah, again, see, so Cheyenne's doing an awesome job here of bringing up certain things and all of the individual items that again, hope right there. So, there's lottery tickets. She's trying really hard. When I went into the exhibit, every time I went into it, until quite recently, something had been moved. I would go in and have a look, and a drawer had been opened, or someone had moved something. And I think people really loved being able to walk around it and kind of interact with it. Unfortunately, because it's ceramic, we did have one little accident and it didn't go that well, but that's okay. I was kind of anticipating that in any event. So I do apologize that I don't have my full presentation available, because I did have some little videos and some things. I guess the last thing I wanted to say is that if you can see it now and you look at the shelves that are all unbalanced, they're mirrored in the back, and the mirroring is intentional for 2 reasons. Well, 3 reasons. One, it was actually Cheyenne originally that suggested it to me, which I thought was a great idea. 2, I wanted you to be able to see your own reflection in the glass, to just be able to see, to try to make it more personal for you. Oh, and there's my artist talk. And Shan, do you want me to go through these super quickly now, or are we kind of out of our time?
You can
Yeah,
absolutely go through them. Sorry.
You want to go
I had to
through them
find my
really,
mic.
really quickly?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So there we go. So this is just me in the studio realizing really quickly that I did not want to be throwing. But I just wanted to show you a little studio view. This is my craft peanut butter that I did originally. Then that my Made in Canada logo that I did, you can go down and see that was my little Made in Canada exhibition that I did in St. Thomas at the show. And that's a video that you don't need to go through if you don't. I don't know, Shannon, if it'll work, but that's fine. Let's see. Maybe. Nah, it's okay. Don't
Yeah, it
worry.
doesn't seem to want to play. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. And then the next one down was from keep going. Yeah, and that was in Toronto at the art fair. This was my favorite part of the art fair. So I did a little Canada Post box, and then instead of doing business cards, I did images like postcards, and then had people actually write a postcard and fake mail their postcard. And then at the end, I put stamps on them and sent them like 250 of them or something all over the place, which was really cool. But it was so interesting that people actually didn't know, anyone under the age of 30 didn't know how to write a postcard, had no idea how to address it, didn't know what to put on it, weren't really sure what it was, were kind of embarrassed at the beginning and wanted to take it away with them. And then finally we explained how it was done, and it turned out to be kind of popular and a fun thing to do. And then the next one. So I would take some of my objects that I was making, and I would take them kind of in situ, take them to the grocery store or whatever, and hide them. And then have, post them on my Instagram and have people try to find them. So you can see the Velveeta cheese or the soup or the soft soap. And then go to the next one. There's the peanut butter in there. The craft dinner is a little bit hard to find. I'm kind of proud of that one. And then, yeah, and then there's my Red Path sugar or the coffee crisp. You can keep going through those. And that's a video, so that, yeah, what worked, that's fine. And then we're here to Beyond the Threshold, which we've kind of already talked about. So you can just zip through those and you can see, yeah, so, and the food bank, I did the food bank box with the basics in it, but also to put some apples in it to show that the food bank is, local food banks do put fresh fruits and vegetables in. And so I think that that's a big part of what they try to do, which is really important for the families. The dirty dishes in the sink, but there's the family calendar in the background though. And everything is sliding off the table. And again, just to show that it's unbalanced, right? And to see there's the final notices and then here we have the high chair with a little soother and the apple juice, and to show she is really trying, right? She's trying to provide some kind of life for her children there. And then, yeah, all the final notices and the government checks, and also, giving herself a treat occasionally, buying a bingo card and trying to kind of keep it all together. Those are just close-up images of some of the things that we've done. And then that's all she wrote. So I'm trying to figure out what's next. And then again, there you see the reflection of the mirror in the back. The food that's on those shelves is hollow intentionally in the back, if you can see that. What I was trying to do there is to show, what you see isn't always what you get, and what's there is pretty limited. And that is my presentation. Thank you.
At this time, we will open up the floor to any kind of audience questions that we may have. So if you have a question for our lovely artists here, feel free to pop them in the chat. Otherwise, I have some questions as well. Maybe I can kind of get started with those. Just to kind of get things started, we're having a lot of really positive feedback. Lots of folks are coming in to see the show. What is one thing that you hope viewers can take away from Beyond the Threshold? It's hard, I know. One thing.
Well,
there's lots of things to take away.
Because I'm local and I've been able to see the show a number of times and spend a little bit of time with it, I think that it's so multifaceted. And I think that if you spend a little bit of time, even if you just read the information on the wall and you don't go through and you don't read the whole catalog, I think that it's good for everyone to really think about what's going on in our community. And especially in an environment like the Canadian Clan Glass, you go in and it's so beautiful in there, right? And the light is so great and it looks so lovely. And to be able to take that and translate it into really thinking about food insecurity or poverty or homelessness or, addiction or the things that are really in our community, and you might not see it when you're walking down the street, but it's all really there. So I think the number of people that are going through, and even when I'm there and I sit back sometimes and just watch what people are saying and doing, I think it's really making an impact in the community.
For sure. I think, being unhoused and all of the issues that relate to that, it can be a very invisible beast sometimes. If it's even though it is so prevalent and the numbers are rising, and even though we do sometimes witness it when we go out into our communities, I find sometimes all of these issues that we're all addressing in the artworks featured in Beyond the Threshold, sometimes just are very hidden to a lot of people if it's not something you're directly experiencing. And with this exhibition, we're able to bring a lot of visibility to these voices and these experiences. And I think it's really impactful. Every piece in that exhibition has something to say. It's really important. Jennifer, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I really hope and see in looking at the wide range of pieces and opportunity for discussion. I hope that it starts discussion about how people can look at these topics differently, perhaps, than how they previously did, or how they can also contribute and share the conversation. Sometimes it's easier to talk about these difficult topics around art and visuals as opposed to speaking to directly personal experience. And so I'm hopeful that a conversation is started, because that's a seed that will grow throughout many communities beyond just what we're doing as well.
No, that's a really lovely thing to bring up. I think sometimes vocal expression of these ideas or written text experience about these concepts can be very difficult for people to engage with, but art is such a beautiful visual language that allows us to physically see the things that sometimes are difficult for us to express in words. And I really think Beyond the Threshold is a great jumping off point for these conversations to start in our communities if they haven't been started already. Most definitely. And I'm curious, for both of you, while you were developing, your works for Beyond the Threshold, were there any other avenues that you kind of considered exploring that you decided, maybe I won't take that direction this time? Was there anything that you kind of cut that you thought, maybe I won't include that?
I
Yeah,
do, for sure.
yeah.
Well, I think you were the one actually who helped me so much. And again, because I'm local, I had a little bit of extra extra help. But when I was putting it together, um, you were the one who came to me and said, no more food. Like, stop with the food items, right? You're making a food insecure home. Like, what you need to do is put some other things in there. And so, yeah, because I love making food. So, yeah, I was like, okay, now I'm just going to make, I don't know, unpaid bills or whatever, which, but yeah, I think that was one direction that, and for me, again, because it's not something that I've lived. And so it was great for that to have that feedback, right? And to have a little bit of collaboration and some ideas and say, and also to make it look like it's a loving home where, it's, yes, you're food insecure, but you are a mom with two kids and you are trying to make it the best for them that you can.
For
So,
sure. That's something that sometimes people don't necessarily recognize when it comes to household situations where there might be absence of one thing. So there might be food insecurity, but there's like an abundance of love, you know? Um, and it can be difficult for people to recognize that in those situations. What about
mhm.
you, Jennifer?
Well, I started out with this, and I could have done a proposal based on this scale, and somehow I went from this to giant. I'd never worked with barbed wire before because this is all copper. But so I would say I thought big right off the top and then had to figure it out. So I on occasion, while I was trying to figure out how much barbed wire I would need for the size and scale of the installation that I had proposed, I often thought, why didn't I just stay with this size? But I'm happy that I didn't, because I wanted to I wanted the individuals that I'm representing to get noticed, and not to be hidden.
Absolutely. And I think the scale that you worked at is very important because it gives each sphere such a presence. Like you said, it gives each butterfly, each person such importance, such a presence. And it also kind of shows you that, addiction is not a tiny little ball that is easy to pick up and move and manage. There are so many other facets that can make it quite a beast. And I think having that monumental scale really drives home how monumental the battle of addiction can be for the individual. So thank you so much for sharing that insight. It can be difficult when you're an artist to work with topics that are so personal to yourself while also making it accessible for, individuals who come to see the exhibition, but you did a really wonderful job. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And you too, Raegan. Boy, golly, boy, gosh, you made quite an installation that has been so well received by everybody who's come in. And each of you has started some really important conversations, not just in the gallery space, but I'm hoping that those conversations are being taken outside of our space as well. Before we wrap up, if there are any last questions that folks want to ask, I encourage you to pop them in the chat. Otherwise, Peter, I think I might hand things back over to you, and to see if you have anything that you want to say. If not, I'm happy to do a little conclusion here, but how are we feeling?
Sure. I do see someone is typing, so we'll maybe hang on a minute and see if
Wonderful.
we have a question.
Perfect. I was just curious if you
Um,
had anything you wanted to add, Peter, before I wrap things up.
yeah. Thank you both, first of all, Raegan and Jennifer. Seeing the additional like insights and all of the thought that went into both of your installations is really fantastic, because they're such multifaceted pieces, even within, as we were kind of saying, this exhibition that is multifaceted itself and tackling a lot of issues. I really appreciated that extra context and all of those details that went into them. And Raegan, especially, your work is something that really spoke to me, and that balance between food insecurity and love in that household, and just the effort and the trying, I think, is something that it really comes across in that piece, and it's something that draws people into the exhibition, because it is so. And really, with both of the pieces, they're so engaging, kind of as you walk into that exhibition space, without really realizing the depth of the meaning within them. And it gives people that opportunity to enter the space and feel kind of welcomed, and then encounter, as you look closer and you read more about the pieces, and really seeing all of that meaning and those stories behind them and those narratives, that I think is really, really quite powerful. So it's great to have both of those works make a really important contribution to the exhibition, for sure.
Thank you, Peter. That's, yeah, very, very insightful. Most definitely. It looks like we have some questions in the chat here. Abby is asking, what was the best thing that came from this experience? And Abby might be talking about, responding to the exhibition call and putting your work forward in the exhibition. Have any
Well,
fun memories?
I can speak to it being very therapeutic for me. The subject is, as many people have experienced, often held in secrecy in families and definitely not shared online. And so having the opportunity to share the subject matter and chat with my family about it, chat with my friends about it, receive support in terms of friends giving me the barbed wire I needed. And someone I'd only just met giving me the gold leaf in order to make the butterflies extra special. Just really, I found the whole process of making, and I make all the time, have for decades, but this particular experience of making was very exceptionally therapeutic for me.
That's lovely. What about you, Raegan? Do you have any fond memories?
Oh, yeah. Well, I do. I have a lot of fond memories. And for me, not therapeutic because it is not something that I've lived, but I felt like first, because I do love to learn, I felt like I learned a lot um, about just what it is like to be food insecure. Um, Obviously, not enough probably, but I feel like I am going to go forward with this now and do a little bit more with the community. Um, I had a lot of fond memories because my family and my friends were so supportive through the entire process. And so I think that, everything from helping me haul things around to, supporting at the opening, I just felt really supported through the entire process.
That's
Yeah.
very wonderful. It's always nice when you have a community surrounding you too.
And super supported by the staff at the gallery.
Yay!
It's been such an amazing process right from the beginning. You've all been fabulous.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And there's also a question for you, Raegan, in the chat. Raegan, this is from Farron Ruby. Raegan, when working with clay, has one small error ever cost you a full piece?
Caused a full piece?
Cost you a full piece. Did you ever make a
Oh.
mistake and then it just, oops, there goes
Oh
that?
yeah, there have been some failures for sure. Yeah, so I think, when you're doing ceramics, especially if you're doing things that are hollow, if you forget to put a little hole in the bottom and let the air out while it's drying or whatever, there have been some blow ups for sure. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
everybody's got
you,
to
Farron,
have
for
one
that
kiln
question.
explosion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, or the glaze melts or onto the kiln shelf or something drips or whatever.
I've
You
wrecked the
can't,
kiln shelf before.
did you?
Yeah, I
Yeah, you
did.
can't, I
I
don't think you
did.
can ever get super attached to anything until the very end, can you?
Yeah, you can anticipate what you hope might happen in the kiln, and then you'll open it and go, well, that the universe had other plans for that piece, I suppose.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then it looks like we have Michael. Oh, Michael here says, I wanted to thank the both of you. I grew up in a home with both food insecurity and addiction. It was very healing to see this reality depicted. Have you had any feedback from those who have lived this or lived with this by proxy? I'm not sure if either one of you have received any individual feedback yet, but I'd be interested to hear if you have. Thank you, Michael, for sharing that. We have had some folks visit us from A Better Tent City, and we work with some folks who live at A Better Tent City, which is a local community here. And they've responded really well to this exhibition, and they are also appreciative of it sort of, bringing to the forefront these issues that sometimes people are happy to ignore because it doesn't directly impact them. But we're kind of bringing them to the forefront and inviting our community to see the realities. Yeah.
Thank you for your feedback, Michael. That was good to hear.
Absolutely.
Good to read.
Yeah. Well, we are almost at 1 p.m. So I want to say thank you, of course, to both Raegan and Jennifer. Thank you so much for being here with us today. It is always so rewarding to have artists directly share with us their knowledge and their insights about their own pieces. This is a really unique experience that we're very lucky to have. So thank you so much for putting all that effort into your presentations. Thank you for being here. Thank you, of course, as well to all the folks who have joined us here to watch these presentations and who've been participating in the chat. It's so great to see the community come together for this. And then, of course, I would love to thank Armstrong Fine Art Services, as well as our anonymous donor who supported the exhibition from the very get-go, and they are what allows us to do these sort of community events like this, to share these insights. So once again, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone. It was great to see you all here today. We do have some more online talks coming up, much like Peter said, and we also have a roundtable talk coming up very soon, November 9th. It's free to attend. So if you're in the Waterloo area on November 9th, please join us for that. It's going to be very exciting. Okay? So thank you so much,
Sharon.
everyone.
Thank
I hope
you.
everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.